My family's come out here, you know, every summer we come out here to boat and to have picnics, and it's just, I think, a you know, great opportunity for people to live in this region.
Canberra Somerset has done great work out there. The one thing that I am so glad about that a commercial outfit did not get it, because they would have sold off lots and it would have become kind of like some of the other dams, like Lake Indian Lake or some of the other Lake Stonycreek with lots around it and so forth. But it's still relatively pristine.
Gratefully, Somerset and Cambria County were able to come in and recognize the tremendous potential this water resource had for the region, not just for economic development, but for quality of life, and purchase the holdings of the manufacturer's water company.
The Bethlehem, or the Cambria Steel at that time, formed the manufacturer's water company in 1900. And they assigned a number of their engineers and hired several engineers to come in and find the location and the type of dam they were going to put in. So they settled on the Quemahoning Creek and decided to put the impoundment over that creek.
The Cambria Iron Company was organized in 1852, and after 10 years of financial difficulty and the need to improve the technology, it had become probably, by the time of the Civil War, the biggest iron-making center in the United States. It was one of the technological centers for the emerging iron and steel industry, and in the 1870s was actually the biggest iron and steel producer in the United States. Around the turn of the century, around 1900, there was a lot of thought to moving the mill up along one of the Great Lakes, which was really where the industry, much of the industry, was being developed at that point. And they considered expanding the plant here in Johnstown, and they made the decision if they could find an adequate water supply in the hills around Johnstown, they would stay in Johnstown, not move the plant. And they were able to develop adequate water supply, principally the Quemahoning.
They had scouted the West and Mexico to find out the best kind of a breast to put in to impound the water. And the sluicing method is the one they decided on. And they found that the hillsides near the dam here had clay that was perfect for sluicing and for making the breast. Now the sluicing method was done by blasting clay out of the hillside through water under pressure. And they built sluices on both sides of the hill and brought the clay down and deposited it in the breast.
The material that went in first was fine material. Now they chose this area because of the type of soil. It was like shale and clay mixed, which was a good mixture, and it would pack. The fine material went in first. After the fines went in, there was a little bit coarser material on top of that. And this was all washed into these troughs. Now there was a trough on either side of the dam, and they did this simultaneously, washing into the troughs. And the third course was rock and coarser material. And they built this up to 90 feet, which was the height of the dam.
It was actually the biggest man-made reservoir in Pennsylvania at the time it was constructed. The work on the Quemahoning Reservoir began in 1908. It was a massive undertaking along with the pipeline, and that was finished in 1912.
In order to get the water to Johnstown, they had to put in a 14-mile-long pipeline. And that pipeline was made of steel pipe. The pipe was made in the mills in Johnstown. It was the cheapest way to pipe the water into Johnstown. They could have done it through wooden pipes, but they felt that steel was cheaper and it would last longer. The pipeline It was made in 30-foot sections, about 5/8 of an inch thick, and was all riveted, 30-foot sections, as I say, and it was extended 14 miles into the town. The pipeline crosses the Stonycreek River 13 different times. The pipeline is from 7 to 14 feet deep down along the Stonycreek River for the most part.
Everything was steam operated in that period. The mills were later electrified, and they used electricity to power all the equipment. But earlier it was steam engines. So you had steam engines powering the blowers and powering the rolling mills, and all the massive equipment that you need to make steel was powered by steam engines. And that by itself took a lot of water. I think probably the biggest use of water, though, was the cooling equipment used in making steel.
Late 30s, early 40s, the acidity of the dam greatly increased, and the fish died out. There was no fish there when I was a kid. They would come in the spring, and by the time they got down to where the caretaker's house was, they were belly up. They were dead because of the acidity. In our house, we had two kinds of water. We had spring water, and we had dam water. It was, you could put that dam both ways. Because we bathed in the dam water. And we always had a red ring around the top, but inadvertently someone wrung out a washcloth and laid it over the edge of the tub. It ate the granite, the porcelain, right off the tub and left the imprint of the washcloth there.
One of the economic engines that drove our whole region was coal mining. And thousands of people and generations of employees were supported by coal mining. Unfortunately, one of the consequences of coal mining, and the way it was done before the advent of the regulations, were the old bony piles that dot the area and acid water which seeps out of all the old mines from the area. That acid water is acid. It's very bad. It lowers the pH. At one time, there was hardly any fish at all alive in the Quemahoning Reservoir because of the low pH. Now, through the efforts of many groups in the watershed, a lot of this acid water has been treated through active systems and a whole series of passive water treatment systems, wetlands, and that has resulted in the major tributary, which is Quemahoning Creek, becoming basically a neutral supply of water to the reservoir. Right now, the pH and the water quality in Quemahoning is quite good. The pH is back up to neutral levels. There's a little bit of alkalinity in the water, and fish populations are doing very well in the water. And we are in the process of increasing the fish populations by increasing the habitat structures that are available for the fish in the lake.
When I was a kid, it was nothing but like an open pavilion and a closed pavilion. And it was used very seldom. However, in 1940, when the war started and the mill started great production, and the money was coming in, and they spent a lot of money at Bethco. They built some new facilities as far as the dining room, the bar room, the changing room, a kitchen, 3 pools, a kiddie pool, a swimming pool, and a diving pool. And they were used throughout the war years up until about in the 60s.
Well, Bethco Pines was it was kind of a picnic area, party area that was devoted exclusively to the Bethlehem supervisory folks. The supervisors from the steel mill and also the mining company had exclusive right to that facility. There was a swimming pool there. They had picnic areas, of course. They had a real nice clubhouse, and they had a shooting range, and it was exclusive for the Bethlehem people. It was every weekend. It was it was pretty well loaded with people, pretty well packed. During the week, most of the families would come out, picnic in the evening, bring the kids out to swim. They had a swimming club, and it was pretty enjoyable.
In 1997, Bethlehem decided to sell remaining assets of Manufacturers Water Company, which was really Quemahoning Reservoir, Hinkston Run Reservoir, Wilmore Reservoir, 2 river intakes, and 230,000 linear feet of pipe. So in 1997, they announced it was for sale. The commissioners in Cambria and Somerset County decided to investigate the potential for purchasing Manufacturers Water Company and making it a public entity. So a series of meetings, public meetings, was held in Cambria and Somerset County, and the result of that meeting, thousands of people attended all the meetings, and the result was overwhelming support for the public ownership of these assets, the reservoirs primarily. Also, an economic feasibility study was conducted by an engineering firm, and it turned out that indeed it was economically feasible to purchase the system. So in 1999, the Cambria-Somerset Authority was formed. We are the only 2-county authority in the whole Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In 2000, we closed on the deal to purchase the assets of Manufacturers Water Company, and the primary, biggest one obviously is where we are, Quemahoning Reservoir. Quemahoning was built in the early 20th century. It has 11 miles of shoreline and over 12 billion gallons of water storage.
When we moved in here, of course, Bethco Pines was still there. The buildings were there. We had them all removed. We've leased that section of the property to Summer's Best 2 Weeks. And of course, we collect from that, not necessarily monetarily, but we do extract work from the folks, and all the things that you see here at the public area is a result of our lease to the Summer's Best 2 Weeks folks.
Summer's Best 2 Weeks contacted us, and they were interested in developing a summer camp for youngsters on the Quemahoning. Through a series of negotiations, we entered into an operating agreement with Summer's Best 2 Weeks, where we allowed them to develop a summer camp in the old Bethco Pines area. 51 acres was under an operating agreement, and in turn, they are obligated to develop, operate, and maintain recreation facilities for the Cambria-Somerset Authority and therefore for the public. Because of that, to this date, they have put in close to $500,000 worth of assets into developing recreation. 24 RV campsites, 40 tent sites, the pavilions, the basketball court and everything has all been paid for by Summer's Best 2 Weeks because we did not charge them for the land where they constructed their summer camp. Yeah, we have formed so many partnerships at all our reservoirs. It's amazing. The sportsmen's groups, the environmental groups, the conservation groups, the municipalities. Municipalities have put in parking lots out here for us. They've done a great deal of work, and it's always been, I have been amazed at how cooperative not only the municipalities are, but all the sportsmen's and conservation groups. And because of this cooperative effort, we've been able to develop a lot of recreational opportunities we would not have been able to do any other way.
You know, in the holidays here, this place is pretty well filled up. Our campsites are usually continually used. We have boating here, of course. We have swimming, picnicking here. As more people see what we have here, we're going to have a lot more usage, I'm sure.
Quemahoning Reservoir serves 2 basic functions: industrial water supply and recreation. Because of its size and water quality, Quemahoning has become a recreational asset. We now get people coming in from out of state, from Maryland, Virginia, to come to Quemahoning. Locals now have a place to go to enjoy recreation. It is a really great quality of life improvement for our whole region, and it continues to develop as more and more people become aware of it.